Hi everyone! Today we'll create a fully functional CRUD application from scratch to manage products. We'll activate GitHub Copilot to generate Razor pages and Scaffold Entity Framework code to connect with a local SQL Server database. Let's get started. On Visual Studio, let's create a new project and select the ASP.NET Core web app with Razor pages. Select this template and define the name. Select the .NET version and create the project. First step is to add a product entity. So open the Solution Explorer and create a new class called product. We'll generate the CRUD Razor pages based on this model. So define 4 properties: ID, name, price, and finally an image URL. The next step is to scaffold entity framework code to connect to a local SQL Express database. So open the GitHub Copilot chat. From the prompt, we'll type scaffold entity framework code for the product entity. We'll ensure the database creation and seed data in the DB context class. And we'll also add real free image URLs for the data. Execute this prompt in GitHub Copilot. Based on the generated response, first we need to create the DB context class. So click Apply to add the application DB context. Press Tab, and we need to install Microsoft Entity Framework code. So I will install the latest version. So we have the DB context with the options, and we'll ensure that the database will be created. We have the products DB set, and in the onModel creating method, we'll seed data, and we'll use real image URLs. Go to the program.cs file, and we'll add this DB context through dependency injection. For this demo, we'll use SQL Server, so we'll add the application DB context, and instead of using SQLite, we'll use SQL Server, and we'll hardcode the connection string. Please don't do this in production. So I have the connection string, which is a local SQL Express database. We'll define the database name, and we need to install another NuGet package. So open a command prompt, and we'll search for Microsoft.Entity Framework.SQL Server. Let's execute this command to install this package. Import Microsoft.Entity Framework code. Go back to the Copilot chat. We need to copy the connection string. It's done. And finally, we'll add a migration to create the database schema into seed data. So we need to install another NuGet package. So in this case, I will open the command prompt, clear the console, and we'll install Microsoft.Entity Framework code.design. Execute. Go back to the Copilot chat, and we need to run these 2 commands. The first one is to add a migration file, and we'll run this command to add the migration file. That's it. We have the migration file. You can see it in the Solution Explorer. Now go to Copilot chat and copy the final command to update the database schema and run this command. So let's go to the SQL Server Object Explorer, and we'll connect to the SQL Server local instance. You will see in the databases. Let's refresh. And we have the shop database, and from the tables we have the products. Right click and view the data, and we have the 3 products that we define in the DB context. The next step is to add some validations using DataAnnotations for the product entity. So for the ID, let's define a required built-in validation using DataAnnotations. For the name, we'll add a minimum length of 3. For the price, let's add a required attribute, and finally for the image URL as well. And for the price, I will add a second validation based on a range. We'll define a minimum and maximum values. The minimum will be 5 and the maximum will be 100. So we added some validations using DataAnnotations for this product model. It's time to generate the razor pages for this product entity. Go to the Copilot chat and let's clear this thread. We'll type in the prompt generate CRUD razor pages for the product class. Execute. After the generated response, we'll add a folder called products under the pages. So go to the Solution Explorer, and inside the pages, we'll add this products folder. Go back to the Copilot chat, and GitHub Copilot will create the CRUD razor pages index to list all the products, the create template, the edit razor page, the delete, and finally a details razor page to view a product details. We'll add all the templates and the CS files that we need. Scroll down, add the template, and this is the corresponding page model that is a CS or C# class. Let's fix this error. Scroll down, continue with the second razor page to create a product. Remove this error. Scroll down, create the corresponding HTML file. I will explain in detail the structure of this web application with these generated razor pages. So let's scroll down and add the remaining pages. I will go to the Solution Explorer, and look at that, we have inside the pages the products folder with all the corresponding razor pages with the HTML and the CS file. So to understand this structure of this web application, the first one that we'll see is the view style, which we define the first page to be rendered in the web application, which is the layout. So from the Solution Explorer, we'll see that we have in the shared folder the layout HTML. In the head section, we'll import some CSS styles. From the body, we had a header with a navigation bar with some items. And we're using tab helpers to navigate to a particular route. For instance, we have the index and privacy routes that are navigation items. And in this container, we'll render dynamically the content page based on the selection. And we have a footer section. And finally, we have some JS scripts. Let's add another navigation item to render the content page of the index to load all the products in this navigation bar. So we'll add a new route. The routing for this web application is based on the folder structure. For example, we have the products folder. So we'll add access to the products folder, which is the first element of the route. And then we define the razor page name, which is index, to display the index HTML. And that's it. Now let's go to the index page, which lists all products. So from the HTML, we'll add a title for the page. We have a table with the name, price, and image. And we iterate over the products using a for each statement to display the product details. And we have 3 links to go to the edit details and delete pages. And also we'll use this tab helper to pass the ID for the item to the razor page. So go to the CS file. So we inherit from the page model that represents a razor page. We use dependency injection to access the contents and get the products on this onGetAC method that will be executed when the razor page is rendered. So we get the products and we display these products in the HTML. Now go to the second razor page, which is the create. In this HTML, we have a form with a post method when we submit the form. And we have 3 form groups for each input. In this case, for the name, price, and image URL, we have the associated labels, and we have this span, which uses a tab helper to add some validations for each field. When we submit, when we press this button, it will execute a post method. And finally, we have this back to list option that will redirect to the index page. So go to the CSS file and we inherit from the page model, we inject the contents, and look that the onPost async, when we submit the form, we check if the model is valid based on the validations that we added in the product entity. And then when the model is valid, it will add the products in the database and will redirect to the index page. Okay. And we'll use this bind property attribute for the product to bind this product based on the form. Let's go to the second page, which is the edit. This is a similar razor page, a similar HTML with the same form for the name, price, image, URL. But here we have a hidden input, which is for the product ID. So we're using this hidden method is to add the binding to the corresponding product that we have. So when this razor page is rendered, you will get the ID from the root that we define in the index HTML. As you will see, we pass the ID. So from the edit CSS, we get this ID parameter. We get the product and we render the page. And when we post the form, we validate if the form is valid and we'll modify the state of the product as modified, and we update the product, and finally we'll redirect to the index page. Now let's continue with the next page, which is the delete. So in the delete we have this HTML, we have the details for the product, the name, the price, and the image, and we have a simple form to confirm the deletion of the product. When we press this button, it will execute a post method. And we have an option to cancel the deletion and redirect to the index page. In the CSS file, we have the same bind property to bind the product with the form. And when the page is rendered, we'll get the product. And finally, when we post the form, we get the product and we'll remove from the database and we'll redirect to the index page. And at the final razor page is the details. In the HTML, we have the details about the product, and we have the option to edit a product. We navigate to the edit page and pass the ID using this tab helper, and we'll also have the option to go back to the index page. So this is the basic structure of our application. Now let's run the application. This is the initial layout view from the web application. I forgot to change the name. So go to the layout and we'll replace this name as products. Let's reapply the changes and go back to the page. Navigate to the products navigation item, and it will display the index razor page with the list of products with the name, price, and image. Let's create a new product. We'll define the name, price, and image URL. Let's create the product and look that we have the new product in the list. Let's edit this product. Let's add invalid inputs, price greater than 100, and an empty image URL. Click Save. And we have the validation messages for each input. So let's fix these errors, save it. We can also view the details of a product. Click this details link. As you will see, we have the name, price, and image. Let's go back to the list. And finally, we have the option to delete a product. Let's click delete. And we have this razor page with the product details and a confirmation message to delete the product. Let's press delete. And we have 3 products. So we created a full CRUD razor page application using Entity Framework Core and GitHub Copilot.